And then the other one is internal control systems, ICS. And this is a very interesting topic. I know you are familiar with ICS from the audit. And maybe in answering this question or issues to do with ICS, I want us to move to November 2019, question 1B. November 2019, question 1B. November 2019, question 1B. November 2019, question 1B, we are asked, so I want to read it, and those ones who don't have the past papers, it's also projected on your Zoom. Mary Mambo was tasked with the responsibility. Okay, well, there's a question that was asked by somebody, whether you should refer to the past papers, to the case study when answering questions. Very true, you must refer to the case study, but you must also have the knowledge. For instance, I'll show you how to now handle, these questions from May 2016. But at the same time, even in answering this question, cite some examples from the case study. But as you start your answer, you must now give us a major reason from the notes that we shall be discussing. Mary Mambo was tasked with the responsibility of monitoring emissions by the company and feeding the data in the company's internal control systems. In the context of Karati Paper Mills Kenya, explain the term internal controls. If you read this case study, it was to do with the data management, and where data was very sensitive, and consequently, going by the handout, we can define internal control systems as the processes and procedures to ensure that the processes and procedures to ensure that the organization systems are effective to safeguard organizational assets. So in that answer, you would only change the word assets and put data to safeguard organizational data. So systems, processes, and procedures to ensure that organizational data is well safeguarded. So you see, because the case study is to do with data management, you now only interchange the word assets with data. Then the second question we are asked, examine 5 reasons why Mary Mambo might be concerned about the soundness of the internal control systems at KPMK, 10 marks. So now you have the one of the reasons. If you look at the handout, we have asked why internal control systems. Why internal control systems? For those ones who don't have the handout, let me project. Why internal control systems? So why internal control systems? One of the reasons is to safeguard resources. So to safeguard resources. So to safeguard the resources of the organization. Then you go back to the case study and look at where we have the safeguarding of resources. We may not have we are not looking at November 2019 today, but if you write safeguarding resources and illustrate, those are 2 marks. Then compliance purposes. Not necessarily, this one did not require any illustration, but it is a regulatory requirement by the Capital Markets Authority that organizations should have strong internal control systems, and therefore it's a compliance requirement. 3, to safeguard assets of the organization. To safeguard assets of the organization is also a reason. And you illustrate, once you illustrate, you're okay, you're good to go. Then to detect fraud and errors, and from our audit knowledge, you know what's the difference between fraud and errors. Fraud is intentional, errors are unintentional. And then for environmental sustainability, And another importance of internal control systems that is now in the context of KPMK is to safeguard data. To safeguard data or to safeguard information. To safeguard data or information. So that one is well answered. So we move to the next principle. We move to the next principle, which is accountability to members. Accountability to members. So when we talk of the accountability to members, the organization, the board should be accountable to members, should explain to them how the organization resources have been used. They should explain to them how the organization profits, how the organization profits have been plowed back to the projects of the organization. How have we divided the dividend? How have we come to how have we recommended dividend as the board of directors? Because from our company law knowledge, you know that it is the board that recommends dividend and the shareholders declare it. So the directors must account to the members how they recommend the dividend before the shareholders can be able to approve it. Then the other one is strategy and value. Strategy and value means that an organization should have a strategic plan. An organization should have a strategic plan. And then structure of the organization, it should be well structured. It should have an organizational structure. And another principle, maybe not in the handout, but it's also a very important principle, is adoption of IT. Organizations should adopt technology for them to survive. It's very important for organizations to adopt technology for them to survive. So we are done with that handout. We ask ourselves, the other one is pillars / elements of good governance. Pillars / elements of good governance. So when you talk of the pillars, you see, I've not mentioned the word corporate. Even when you talk of the government of today, if we want to ask ourselves, is it adhering to the principles of good governance? Not corporate, but good governance. There is no word corporate. So what would we, on which basis or which indicators or which elements and pillars would we examine it? On the basis of, I have a question from Faith Ogachi. Yeah, Faith Ogachi. She's asking, which question are you answering? I would like to say this. This session is, I'm covering the syllabus, not necessarily from the past. I had said even those ones who are coming to this class for the first time, they should attend it confidently. This is an area that I always teach students in my very first class, because once I am able to handle this, definitely I know a student will have scored 20 marks. And consequently, I would say that it is not, I'm not looking at, I would only refer to the questions, I would only refer to the past papers if there is an area that is relevant to what I'm looking at. So I'm looking at the handout that I had shared with you. These are principles of good corporate governance that any SG student must understand. So when I talk of elements of good governance, it's in the handout, so I'm just discussing. But then I will also answer a question that has been tested in this area. I'll answer a question that has been tested in this area. So elements of good governance or pillars of good governance. One is transparency. Transparency is openness. Openness in how you are conducting the business of the organization. Being open to the shareholders, providing them with information. The second one is accountability. How have you utilized the organizational assets? How have you utilized the organizational finances? This is something that you must account. And that's why you say that accountability to members is very important. Even the government itself is supposed to account on how they have used the budget, the country's budget. So that one is very important. Then the other one is integrity. And integrity means being free from corruption, not engaging in corrupt activities. So that one is very important and very key. And issues to do with integrity have become vital because people have really engaged into matters of bribery and corruption, and that one has really taken our country lower in terms of governance. Effectiveness and efficiency. Effectiveness is the ability to deliver results. Ability to deliver results. And efficiency is abiding by what you have given. So for instance, if you have a strategic plan, are we able to follow that strategic plan strictly? Are we able to follow that strategic plan strictly? It would be very important. And then the other one is equity and inclusiveness. That one is not, do not be biased in terms of where people come from, in terms of their communities, in terms of their age, in terms of their gender, in terms of gender, among other factors. Do not consider, the issues that you're not supposed to consider in reaching into a decision. Equity, give fairness, being fair to everybody. Indeed, it's equity and inclusiveness stroke fairness. And then we have the rule of law. An organization should follow the rule of law. And finally, we have participation. Participation is ensuring that even the members of the public are able to give out their views in regard to matters of governance. Members of the organization are able to give out their views in regard to the governance of the organization. So now that one was a discussion, but I would like us to look at a past paper question that was tested in that area. So let's go back to November 2019. Let's go back to November 2019. So November 2019, question 3B. November 2019, question 3B. November 2019, question 3B. So I want us to look at that question. We are asked to discuss 5 elements of good governance. Discuss 5 elements of good governance. So the answers to the question are simply, so I'm reading the answers to the question. Discuss 5 elements. Discuss 5 elements of good governance. That is question 3B of November 2019. So if you did this question, the elements of good governance that were required from you are 1, rule of law, 2, the rule of law, and you explain so that you get 2 marks. An organization should be able to observe the rules, the laws as stipulated by the government agencies. Transparency, that is, information should be provided easily in a understandable form. Then responsiveness, that good governance requires that organizations and their processes are designed to serve the best interest of the stakeholders. Then the other one is equity and inclusiveness. Then the other one is effectiveness and efficiency. The other one is accountability. The other one is participation. The other one is risk management. It's also put in the answers, and internal control systems. Risk management and internal control systems. So I do hope that now you are well versed on matters of good corporate governance and elements of good governance. And when I talk of elements of good governance, then you can't find that I'm not mentioning issues to do with corporate. And we've discussed them. So we are good up to that point. I hope so. So I want to collect your questions so that we can be at par. I want to collect your questions so that we can be at par. I want to ask the repeat effective and efficiency. Repeat effective and efficiency. So I want to read on, I want to give an explanation on effective and efficiency. And when you talk of effectiveness, is that good governance, I want to project it. Let me project it. Good governance means that the processes implemented by the organization. Good governance means that the processes implemented by the organization. Good governance means that the processes implemented by the organization to produce favorable results meet the needs of its stakeholders while making the best use of resources at its disposal. Definitely, what it means by effectiveness is ensuring that we achieve the results. Ensuring that we achieve the results. Then, ensuring that we achieve the results. We are results oriented. We are able to achieve the profits as we had stipulated or as we had indicated in the organization strategic plan. So that's what it means by effectiveness. When it comes to efficiency, efficiency is following the rules and the guidelines. For instance, there is the organizational financial management manual. Are we able to abide by that organizational financial management manual? That's what is efficiency. Whereas effectiveness means that we are able to achieve the results as we have stipulated them, as we have indicated them in the organization strategic plan. So that's the difference between effectiveness and efficiency. So another question. So once asked about elements of good corporate governance, should we ask the same as the, no. That question is good. If you are asked of corporate, if the word corporate is there, then you discuss the principles. If you see principles of good corporate, the word corporate means organizations. So what should organization abide by? Then you are supposed to discuss from the authority and duty of members, balance of power, issues to do with internal control systems, issues to do with risk management, issues to do with corporate compliance, among others. So that's what you're supposed to discuss. When it comes to good governance, no word corporate, then talk about transparency, accountability, integrity, effectiveness, and efficiency. And you can find that all these elements of good governance, they are also captured under the corporate, because under leadership, as one of the principles, those leaders should be people of integrity, people who are effective and efficient, people who are transparent, people who are accountable. I hope that one is clear. Another question. I have missed the other points on achieving separation of powers. So he said the salient ways of achieving separation of power. One is ensuring that the chairman and the CEO positions are held by two different persons. And the second way is ensuring that the board is made up of both non-executive directors and executive directors. And the non-executive directors are those directors not involved in the day-to-day management of the company, whereas the executive directors are those ones who are involved in the day-to-day management of the company. So the non-executive directors check the powers being exercised by the executive directors. The executive directors simply means the management, the ones who are involved in the management of the company. Whereas the non-executive directors are the ones. We have the chairman of the board, we have the past chair, the chairman of the audit committee, the chairman of the nomination and remuneration committee, the chairman of the performance evaluation committees. So they are very essential in chairing those committees. That one, I hope, is answered. I can also see from Osman. Osman is asking, what is responsiveness? What is responsiveness? So for instance, talk of COVID-19 that has really caused the issues that we have today, and now we are not able, students want to read, but then there is no, the classes cannot take place because of the government directive. To be responsive means that you come up with ways to be responsive. You respond to the issues of your stakeholders so that employ technology, start digital classes so that you respond to the students. So responsiveness means responding to the issues of the stakeholders, to the issues of the customers, to the issues of the suppliers, to the issues. So that is being responsible and responding to the issues of majorly the customers and other stakeholders as well. That's what it means by responsiveness. Kindly explain transparency. Transparency is openness. Do we have the information flow, or you try to put information to yourself as the management so that the shareholders cannot be able to question you? It means that you should provide information in an understandable manner, so that the shareholders can be able to go through that information and understand it, rather than packaging information, telling them Definitely, you package information in a very difficult way because you know the shareholders will not be able to question these financial statements. Once we use some technical jargon when explaining to them, that would mean that you are not transparent. Information flow, ensuring that the shareholders have information with them, ensuring that you are open, and any question that is asked by the shareholders, you are able to answer to it. The Company Act, if you look at it keenly, it has addressed on issues to do with transparency, where we talk of the register of members should be open for inspection by the members, the register of the debenture holders should be open for inspection, so that you become a transparent organization. Be open to the members of the public, be open to the shareholders, be open to the debenture holders as well. That is what it means by transparency, openness. So let me see another. Kindly briefly explain stewardship theory as mentioned. We had talked about stewardship approach. Stewardship approach to management simply means where the CEO and the chairman is, those two positions are trusted. They are entrusted to one person. The positions of the chairman and the CEO are entrusted to the same person. So that's what it means by stewardship. So this one person has become the steward. He's the steward to run the organization. And it goes against the principles of separation of power, because as per the principles of separation of power or balance of power, the chairman and the CEO should not be the same person. So that's what it means by stewardship, entrusting the positions of the chairman and the CEO to the same person. Then, which principles are captured in the other? Kindly repeat. I can't understand that. Beatrice, I would request you to rephrase your question, please. Then, if you interchange answers for good corporate governance, adjust the elements without corporate. So I would say just be careful. Anytime you see corporate governance, corporate means institutions. Corporates are institutions, and use the principles of good corporate governance that we have used. Then when it comes to principles of good governance, sometimes, by the way, you will find that when we shall be answering question 1 of May 2016, you'll find that accountability is a principle on its own. So even when you see answers like conflict of interest, you are asked which are the corporate governance issues in this institution, then you'd also talk of conflict of interest as one of the issues of corporate governance in that institution. So it's not limited to whatever we've discussed, but whatever we've discussed is Capital Markets Authority giving us some guidelines that we should adhere to as an organization. But I believe it has attempted to capture all of them. So you'll find that from the case studies, others are rising, and we should also use them to answer those questions. So I want to go to I hope you read Sugar Company Limited. So in this class, you shall be talking about sugar, we talk about Brico, we talk about Karati paper mills, we talk about those terms referring to the case studies. Yes. So we shall be looking at those terms when we are talking about the case studies.